Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for joining David and myself. My name is Sherlock Holmes. For those of you that I haven't met, I'm the CEO of Genware Computer Systems, and I'm very excited to have David with me to walk you through the Genware Presentation Studio. I'm going to take a few seconds just to introduce you to Genware. Genware Computer Systems has now been around for just over 21 years. We're headquartered in Wayne, New Jersey. We have offices across the USA and support all of the Americas. Genware Computer Systems is an elite partner with TIBCO, and we leverage the connected intelligence platform to deliver solutions that leverage information as an asset. We have a joint venture company in the United Kingdom dealing with the UK and EMEA regions, named the Data Shack, where we focus on data science and analytics driven from that. We have offices in South Africa under the Genware Shack and also a partnership with Data Shack Africa. We also do natural language generation through NLG Africa. And our partners in Linko work with us throughout the Mexican region. Thank you, David. Today we're going to be looking at the Genware Presentation Studio. We have many customers that use PowerPoint to conduct presentations, and we find three typical use cases. For those customers that need to produce a monthly report or a quarterly presentation, these are typically lengthy presentations with a lot of content, and the structure of the presentation remains fairly static, but every period needs to be updated with the latest data. We have customers that produce content that they want to share with their customers. Maybe a marketing organization that wants to share the statistics around a campaign, or possibly a financial organization making recommendations. To do that, they use their TIBCO Spotfire dashboards to explore the data, get their findings, and then they take that information and put it in a PowerPoint presentation. We also have many of us that just getting ready for that internal team update or that team meeting, want to put together a PowerPoint presentation with a lot of the stuff from our dashboard, but we want to add some narratives and possibly use some of the features of PowerPoint. So in looking at all of these situations, Genware built the Genware Presentation Studio that makes it really easy to map objects from your TIBCO Spotfire dashboard directly to the various PowerPoint objects available. So let's go and take a look at how this looks. David, would you like to kick us off, please?
Yeah, thanks, Sherlock. So today first I'm going to be covering the use case that Charlotte mentioned where, let's say my manager gave me a report that he built in PowerPoint, and then he asked me to replace certain data and certain graphs and images with stuff from my DXP that I've been using to create analysis. So let's take a look at the report that I was given, the PowerPoint. So we have on the first page just the presentation, and one thing to note here at the introduction is the name here. Anything that's in between square brackets is going to tell our configuration tool later on that that's a replaceable element. So on this first page, we have the name and the email that are going to be brought in as replaceable objects. Going to our second slide, we have an image at the top. This is just a regular image, and if you look at the alt text, I gave it a name just to easily identify when we are on the configuration page. Then we have three charts under the image, and these are native PowerPoint charts. So you can see if I go to the chart design and I go to edit data, it has data points here. So when we do our export, what I'm going to be replacing is the data itself, and the graphic is going to get updated automatically to reflect those new data points. Then we have a label here, and like I mentioned, because it has the square brackets, that's going to get replaced. Going to our third slide, we have again a square brackets on the values here, but you'll see when we configure this, I'm going to tell Spotfire to replace this value in a special way. I'm going to tell it to basically take the value from a table that I have across plots and then insert it right here. So just one individual value from a table. Next to it, we have just a PowerPoint table. There's nothing crazy about it, but we also can replace this. We're going to send the values from another table that I have on my DXP and replace the rows on this table here. Then we have target cells and variants and description are just square bracket elements. And then we have an image here. I gave it again an alt text just to easily identify it. And all the stuff that I'm showing you right now, it's very quick preparation work that you need to do right before bringing it to Spotfire. So it's very simple. You just add square brackets, make sure that your images have some descriptions so it's easier to identify and things like that. Then we have our, on the fourth slide, we have another graph. And the unique thing about this graph here is that it has multiple series. So you can see we're not just handling simple graphs. We can handle any graphs as long as you can replace the data that defines it. And then we have an image here. It's an image of a map. And the reason why we included this is just because later on we're going to export an image of a map chart from Spotfire and replace it right here. And that's all that we did for preparation for this PowerPoint. So now if we go to our DXP, this is a DXP that we built about the sales versus sales plan for a dairy company. And this is what we're going to be using for our presentation. So the very first thing, one thing to keep in mind is that we divided our tool into 3 components. So the first component would be the upload of templates. So the template is going to get uploaded and it's going to be residing inside the DXP. Once you upload it, then you get to configure and map the different elements from your DXP to PowerPoint. You save that resides again on the DXP, and then once you do the mapping, you get to export it, and any user doesn't have to worry about the mapping anymore. They just come, make the changes to filters, things like that, and then they export. So if we go here to Genware Presentation Studio under Tools, we have the 3 options that I just mentioned. So the very first thing I'm going to do is the upload, and let me close the template I built. I'm not going to save it, and I'm going to upload it. So I'm going to go to my template, which is the Genware Prepare Reports. I'm going to click Save, and that's going to bring it into the DXP. So now I can start configuring it. So again, I go to Tools, Genware Presentation Studio, and then Configure PowerPoint Presentation. That's going to ask me, okay, what template do you want to use? And you can see that I already had a few other templates in this DXP, but for this demo, I'm going to use Genware Prepare Reports. So I'm going to click Load, and that's going to start reading all the different things from the PowerPoint. And it's not just the elements that you saw on screen, but if the PowerPoint itself had different layouts on the slide master, it's going to bring that in. It's also reading things from your DXP. So it's reading the different graphs that you have available, the different filters, the different bookmarks, all the elements, and it's bringing them as well. This just takes a few seconds depending on the size of your DXP and the PowerPoint slide. Okay, so this is the configuration screen. As you can see, it read all the slides that we had on our template. It brought all 6 slides. And just doing a very quick overview of all the different elements on the configuration screen, we have our global replacements here. This is if you want to replace any text that gets repeated multiple times on different slides. I can add a mapping. Then we have all the content to include. So you can see that's listing all the different pages on my DXP, but also it's listing all the different graphs that my DXP has. And you'll see how that makes sense in a sec. Then we have a slide order and filters. I can change the order of my slides if I wanted to, and I can add filter and bookmark iteration here. And then we have our configuration where I can tell it, okay, I want to include the slide number, the date, footer text, or the image quality. So we're going to start building a report right here. The very first element that you see is the name that I mentioned was in square brackets. So I could type my name, but I already created a document property that I mapped my username to. So I can just right-click on it and then add document property. And I go look for my name, which would be under the document property author. I click add, that adds it right here. I'm not going to change the email. Then I go into the second slide. You can see that I have the image that I mentioned because I gave it that alt text. It's displaying it right here. If you didn't have anything, then you would not be able to tell what this image is pointing to. So that's why it's very important to add the alt text. So I'm going to control click on the image that's right here. I'm going to go to my content include that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go to this page here, and I'm going to add this this graph here. And I click on the plus sign, and that is going to add it right here. Now we have the 3 charts that are right under the image. So what I'm going to be sending here is table plots that I created, specifically that are cross table plots. And so I created them, and I'll show them to you in a sec on this data table page right here. So it's very easy to add them. I just right click on it, and then I click on add table visualization. I go to the page where I have my table plots. So I'm going to go to data table, and then I'm going to start selecting the different plots I have. So for this one, I'm going to choose product group, click add, Then I'm going to choose region, and then dates. I also have the labels right under the chart, so I'm just going to, for this one, I'm just going to manually type it. I'm going to do date, region, and then products. And then there were images right in the middle. I'm not going to replace those images. I'm going to leave it like that. Before I make any other changes, I'm going to call this report 2, and I'm going to save it. I load it just to make sure that everything is going through, and perfect. So I go now to my third slide, where I mentioned that these total sales, target sales, and variance are values that I'm going to be taking from a table. So let's take a look at the tables that I've built. So these are just regular. Most of these are cross table, and you can see that there's nothing complicated. What you see is what's going to be sent to PowerPoint. So the formatting, if you need it to have dollar signs and things like that, then that's where you would probably want to control it. I'm going to be taking the totals table here to extract individual values from. So I'm going to get the 307 million from total sales right here. I'll show you how next. So if I go to my report number 2, I right click here and I add value from table. So it's going to let me choose the page, the table that I'm going to take it from. It was the totals one. And then I just tell it, okay, I want to extract it from the values column. And then a condition I'm going to give it is where column names equals to total sales. So that's going to narrow it down to that particular cell. So you can give it, if you needed to narrow it down further, you could continue giving it more conditions. But for now, I'm just going to leave it like this because I know that's going to give me the value I want. I'm going to click add, and that's going to add it right here. So I could right click for the other ones and continue doing that, but for this case, I'm just going to copy them and just do target here, and then variance. Okay, that's all that we'll do for that. When we go to our next description, that's just a text that goes right next to the variance. I'm just going to say difference. And then we have a table. That's the table that I mentioned right here in the middle. It's very simple. Again, you just right click on it, add table visualization. You go to your page data table, and then you send the table that you want to send. So I'm going to choose the sales per date for table. I'm going to click add. That adds it right there. And then we had an image here that I'm going to take a graph from our DXP. So I'm going to expand this. I'm going to add this one right here. Perfect. I'm going to save it just as a precaution. I'm going to go to my fourth slide, and that's the one that I mentioned. I had multiple series. Again, it's not a problem. I already created a table that has all the necessary columns that I'm going to use. So again, I right click on it, add table visualization. I go to my data table page. I go to my sales plan per date. And then we had a picture of a map right under it. So control click on the image, content to include. I'm going to go to my map right here and just add it, and it gets added. So that would be all for all the slides that I was given. But as I was working on this, I'm told, hey, could you also include maybe sales per region? I could obviously go back to PowerPoint, add the slides, and bring that template again. But I want to do it through here instead of going back to PowerPoint and uploading the template again. So it's very easy. You can see here on the corner, I have an add slide button. So I mentioned that when it was loading the configuration, it was bringing all the different layouts. That's what it's going to show here. So those are all the layouts that were available on the slide master. So for now, I'm going to add the title and content. And I'm going to do sales by region here. But I'm also going to iterate over every different region. And there are two ways to iterate in our configuration tool. You can create bookmarks that do different things, like change the filters, change marking, and so on. Or you could do also iteration over filter values. So I'm going to do for this one filter values. And when you iterate over filter values, you can use a special property that lets you display the filter value. So I'm going to do filter value in square brackets, and I'm going to show the filter value once I export. So I'm going to control click on this. So far I've been showing you images from a page, but you can also add images, the whole page as an image. So you just click on the plus sign right next to the page, and that adds it right there. Now, that just added the slide, but I also I mentioned I wanted to iterate over filter values. First of all, I'm going to my slide order and filters. I click on the slide that I want. I'm going to move it up two spots just because I want it to be at the end. I'm going to control click on it. And you see that it's showing the icons here. This is for bookmarks and this is for filters. So I'm going to click on the filter one. I'm going to go to my filter scheme. I only have one filter scheme. And to my data table, which is the store sales data. And then I'm going to go to region. I'm going to show all the different regions. And I do want to iterate over the 4th region. So I'm going to select all 4. I'm going to click change. And that creates our iteration right here. But as I was about to export, then again, my manager comes and tells me, can you also iterate over this bookmark that I created on the DXP? So no problem. I don't have to go back to PowerPoint. I can just click add slide. I'm going to create a 2 content one for this case. I'm going to iterate over sales by products as that the bookmark is going to change a filter by product, and also is going to change the marking. Sales by product, and for bookmark, we also have a special property. We call it the bookmark value property, and that's going to replace the bookmark value right here. And I control click on the image here. Let me move this up first. I go to my content to include. I go to my sales page here. I'm going to add the variance right here, and then I'm going to go add my sales. I'm going to lastly add my iteration over bookmark. So I'm going to control click on my slide 8. I'm going to click on the bookmark value right here. We only have 2 bookmarks, so I'm going to choose those 2 bookmarks. I'm going to click change, and that adds our iteration right here. So I think it's ready to go. I can save this, review it one last time, make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be. The order looks okay. I have all my slides, different mapping that I did. The column name is okay, and I have my different elements here. So I'm gonna I can save this DXP. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it to the library so we can access it later. So I'm gonna call it configure 1 finish. It's going to save it right to the library, and like I mentioned, everything resides on the DXP. So if you don't save, you created this mapping and all that, and you don't save it, then obviously you will lose it. So it's highly recommend as soon as you create your mapping to save it. Okay, and it's ready to export. So I could tell my manager, hey, I created the mapping. You can go ahead and export. And he opens the analysis. I send the link to analysis. He goes and just all he needs to do. He doesn't need to worry about the mapping. He can just go to Tools, Genware Presentation Studio, and then export PowerPoint presentation. So that's going to tell him, okay, what template do you want to use? He knows he sent me the Genware prepare report, so he's going to click on that. And there's only 2 reports. I tell him, use the report number 2. So clicks on that, clicks export, and that's going to ask me, okay, what name do you want to give it? So I'm going to go to my output folder, call it output 9 for this one, and click save. So that's going to start replacing all the different elements, all the different mapping that I did, generating the images for the slides, and so on. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go check the outputs. Let me go to full screen. So you can see that I replaced my name at the top like I told it to. Went to the second slide, it took an image that I told it to take, and it replaced it. This is just an image from the DXP. Then here, it actually replaced the data points. If we go take a look at the chart, you can see that it actually, if we look at the data, it sent the different products and the sale numbers and all that. Then we have our sales summary. It replaces the value, replaces the table. We only have years 2013 and 14. And then it replaces the image here at the bottom and the variance as well. Then we had our complex chart here. It also handled it just fine. And our map chart got replaced as well. Now we have our iteration. And you can see that's going to start iterating by the different filter values. And it's going to reflect here. So we had first west, then south, north, and east. And you can see that the filters are changing accordingly. And then we had our bookmark iteration. So we have our milk and cheese, and then our yogurt as well. And then that would be the first user case that I mentioned, the use case that I mentioned. This one was a report that I was sent with different elements that had already been pre-prepared before this the mapping that I did. But also there's a use case where you might have an empty template just with maybe like a front cover and then a thank you page or things like that. You can create the whole presentation right on Spotfire without even going to PowerPoint. So if we go to our, for example, if we go to my templates we have the blank Genware template, and we have just 3 slides. You know, you could maybe this is your corporate template, and then you can just use this to create different configurations. So, for example, I'm going to close this. I'm going to go to my tools. I already uploaded a previous meeting, so I'm going to go to my configure PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to choose my blank Genware one. I'm going to click load, and that's going to load the blank one with just 3 slides. But again, it's reading all the different layouts that are inside of it. So, you know, your corporation might have as many layouts as as needed. That's going to be brought in. It's also going to read all the different elements on a Spotfire, like I mentioned. So that's why it takes a sec. Perfect. So we only have 3 slides. There's not much going on, but I'll show you how quickly it is to create, you know, a whole presentation within here. So there's nothing to be replaced per se. So we're just going to be adding slides. So, and it's going to be very simple. Very simple. It's going to show something that we kind of already saw on the first part, but this is a different use case. So I'm going to click on my title and content again. I'm just going to give it, and we're going to be, for this use case, imagine that we have I'm asked to do a quarterly report, for example, something like that. And I'm asked, build it on Spotfire for this dairy company, and that's what I'll be building. So I'm going to do a sales report. Click here, just gonna add my map as well. Okay, then I'm gonna do template layout. I'm gonna do to content, and I'm gonna do again a filter iteration. So I'm gonna do my sales by region again. Oops. Then I'm going to do another title and contents. I'm going to add here my region, then the sales of product that I saw earlier. Actually, let's do again says sales by region again. I'm going to do filter value. And we're going to again show our map. So you're going to see that the map is going to reflect the different regions only. Let me minimize this. So I didn't show it earlier. First of all, I'm going to move this to all the way up. I'm going to select both of them. So you can add to your iteration as many as you need to. I'm going to do my filtering scheme. I'm going to do my store sales data, and I'm going to, again, do my region. Select all the different regions that I wanted to iterate. I click change. I'm just going to add them and tell it, okay, I want to iterate over this. And then I also want to add my bookmark, which it divides it by different products. So I'm going to add my add slide. I'm going to do to content again. Click here. Actually, let's do sales, and then I'm going to control click here. I'm going to do my sales right here, and sales per product group. So I'm going to do this one right here. And I'll add another map just so we can see that as well. I'm going to do product value, and that's it. So I'm going to control click here, just quickly add my map. And then I'll just tell it to iterate over those two slides. First of all, I'll move them up right here. I'm going to control click on both of them, go to my bookmark, and then just select both of them like that. I'm going to click change, and that adds our iteration. So let me give this a name. I'm going to call it sales report. I'm going to click save. Just double check that it's all showing up. Yeah, perfect. So I can already export this. We can see that I changed the order a little bit. I'm going to go to my tools and then Genware Presentation Studio and then export. So we started with 3 slides, and I already built, you're going to see how many slides we're going to end up with. Perfect. Let us go to our output slide and let's review it. So one thing to keep in mind, this is using a template. So any of the content that you see here, you can move it around if you want to, or if you need to change the font or anything, you know, it's, you can do it as you need. Let's review our presentation. So this is the regional sales presentation. You can see that it's just for the United States. We were able to export the graph for the map chart that was on our DXP. Then this is where we were doing the iteration by filter. In this particular case, we were doing it by region. So it's showing the South right now. We can see that we have 2 graphs where we're comparing our sales by date and also by product groups. Then we have by East, by North, and West. Then I also added slides that were iterating our bookmarks. The bookmarks, what they did is they did a few things. They marked some content. So you see that I marked just from 2014, but it also, what it did is also just limited to milk and cheese for this particular graph. So the variance is only for milk and cheese. And then we have for our yogurt products, and again, I only marked the content for 2014. And then we have our year-to-date sales graph at the end. This all, as you could see, took us a few minutes to create, and it was all within Spotfire. And that's what this demonstration was trying to accomplish.
Thank you very much for this. I think it's been very, very insightful. You can see that the Genware Presentation Studio has got a lot of functionality, a lot of value for Spotfire to PowerPoint exports, and we look forward to speaking with you. So please reach out to myself or anybody on the Genware team. You probably have my email address. It's right there on the screen. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.